In a battle that seemed hopeless, I was saved by a mysterious force. When I opened my eyes, it wasn't the shadow of death I saw, but my family and loved ones, their strength and determination helping me rise again. But this fight is far from over. We face not only external enemies but also the fears and uncertainties within. 44. Castiel, Castiel. Castiel. Castiel, wake up. Wake up, please. But it was useless. Michael, check her phone. It hasn't stopped ringing. Charmine had said while clutching her head in worry while tending to her daughter, completely absent-minded, her eyes never leaving the burning moon scars on her angel's forehead. It says that it's from Axel. Michael answered confused while staring at the screen. His brothers were all scattered around their cousin's bed looking worried. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Give me the phone right now. Aramis ED, recognizing that name, rushed while motioning for the phone with his right hand. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Listen, Castiel is. Jason is unconscious. He has moon marks burning his forehead. We don't know what to do. What? Who are you with? Aramis Edie replied, trying to hide his shock. Does that really matter? Answer my question, goddammit. The vampire's fangs were threatening to come out and pierce his nervously clenched lips. I'm with the rest of the group, Melinda included. Get rid of them. Bring me the king. What? No way, we are at Castiel's house. Be here quickly or else I'll drag you. What the hell are you even doing there? Oh shit. Is she okay now? She's in the exact same state as your king. The line went dead for a few seconds. I'll be there in 10. Castiel. Castiel. Cas, and then I opened my eyes. A pounding headache and a constant ringing was all I could feel. That and an extremely warm body resting against mine. I didn't have enough strength to move around and check my surroundings. All I could see was the white smooth ceiling. My breathing was rather calm, and little by little my left side started tingling, making me regain my energies, slowly but surely. As if sensing some commotion, my mother, who I now just realized observing me from the bedroom's door this whole time, decided to move closer until she was by my side. Little angel, we need to talk, she said carefully. Mommy, what's happening? My voice came out so fragile and weak. I felt like a little kid again. I started panicking and struggled to get up. Just wheezy. You are okay. Please don't move. He still has to heal. She ushered me while massaging my head, stroking my hairs gently, and then nodded towards the warm body resting against my left side. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I whispered softly while looking at him, my eyes running through his whole body searching for any injuries. I softly caressed his face, his heartbeat speeding up as a reaction to my touch. Tingles followed my fingers as I traced his cheek. Mom, what's happening? Why is he here? She sighed deeply and rubbed her eyes. I don't know. We don't know, she answered while avoiding looking at me. Mom. She closed her eyes and looked back at me. It might have something to do with the Verity and Ignis. There's a possibility of him sharing it with you. What? What do you mean? Mom, he can't. Tears were burning my eyes by now. I couldn't put him through this. I couldn't. Taking care of a whole kingdom was enough stress for him as it was. Dealing with an unstable amount of supernatural power would destroy him. His sanity. It's just too much. His body is fighting it. We are not sure if he's going to wake up. What type of sick game is this? I just got him back. We just got in good terms again a few days ago. How, why? Mom, I sobbed as I tried to prevent my tears from falling. I'm so sorry, baby. Mom, it hurts so much. I shrieked as the tears started falling freely now, soaking my shirt, my sheets. I couldn't feel anything anymore. Just this void, this hopeless feeling. a feeling that something wasn't right. "Castiel, you need to get a hold of yourself. Your eyes are changing," I heard someone say in the background, but I didn't care. For my whole life, I'd always had to be this perfect girl, with my emotions always in check. Everything had to always be okay. Even if it wasn't, I could never allow myself to hurt because of the uncertainty of what the future would bring if I did. If I allow myself to feel, to be human, the world could be at risk. How messed up and unfair is that? I used to have Nero, but now I have no one. Jason might die and it will be my fault. It will always be my fault. Because I allowed myself to feel something. It hurt so fucking much. I went hysterical while pushing my hair in frustration as I spent my energy on crying non-stop. "Where, baby? Where does it hurt? Show me, I can get you healed," she said while trying to get a hold of my arms to get me to calm down. I stopped my movements all of a sudden. I wiped my face with the back of my hands before scrunching my expression in pain. "Here, mommy. It hurts right here," I said while pointing towards the left side of my chest, where my broken heart kept somehow still beating. "Oh, sweetie," she said with her eyes full of sadness. Deep down she felt guilty for this whole situation too. But I didn't have enough willpower in me to try to comfort her. I heard her murmuring something, before my body was slowly consumed by darkness all over again. I was numb to the real world again, but hollow on the inside, especially in the place where my heart used to be. "Castiel." I turned around and followed the familiar voice through the dark, unidentified space. "Castiel." I kept walking through the darkness trying to follow the voice, but every I took seemed to be useless as my surroundings were all the same. Pitch black. I was stuck somewhere. A place that never ended but didn't seem to have a beginning either. "Nero." I called out loud, recognizing the voice as my brother's. "Nero, where are we?" I whispered, still looking around in hopes of seeing him or something else other than a black space. "We are inside the Vertity and Ignis," he replied, his voice sounding distant. "What?" I asked while freaking out. "All you can see is black," he asked, a little out of breath. "Yeah. What's happening?" "Silence. All I can see is white." This doesn't make any sense. He wasn't even supposed to be able to get a hold of the Vertity and Ignis. I transferred my powers onto you, but the universe didn't exactly accept it. It's unbalanced, so it's going to happen now. You revoke them. You can't take them fully back. I don't know. My world is turning grey right now. I think I'm regaining consciousness," he said in a rush as if trying to run from something. "No, you can't. Jason is fighting it. They're being transferred onto him now. He can't take it. It's too much, Nero. It's killing him. Please. You can't. Help me, please. Nero, please. Nero." Then I remembered something. Nero still didn't know that Samuel was safe now. He could escape from Clarence now. There was nothing holding him back. "Nero. Samuel is. Make him bleed." "What? No, you don't understand. We can fix this. Samuel is safe. You can cut him. Make him bleed," he replied, ignoring me. "Nero. Sam is. I know. Cut him," he repeated. "What? You're talking nonsense." "Nero. Cut him." "Cut who? What the hell are you talking about?" "Make him bleed." I jumped out of bed, ignoring my dizzy state, my body burning and aching, screaming at me to get back to sleep and recover completely. A trail of blood and fire following my rushed pace as I almost flew through the corridors aiming to the kitchen. The world seemed like a blurred and ripped book. Everything was smudged and fast, my mind racing until I opened the door, my eyes dropping slightly, looking so lifeless, so dull. They were once bright and glossy, you know, like a certain rose that I once knew. So dark, shiny and black. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A perfect stalk, its head so messed, dull and golden, a lifeless, a once full of life, group of petals. I never had a motive to peek inside, to see its core, but once again I never had a good motive to open my heart. Samuel was bleeding. He had cut himself with some leftover glass that Lucifer had broke, and during his display of anger in the living room. He was precious and was just trying to help. But that only meant one thing. A loud crash distracted from my thoughts. See cast IL. I heard someone stuttering. Oh my God. Lucifer, do something, I can't shall mine. I'm trying. Angel, come back to us. This isn't you. I just kept staring emotionals at Samuel. Try protect Sam. She's going for the kill. Then I felt my father's cold arms around me. Angel, I'm taking you back to bed, okay? This isn't you. This is the dark side of your powers emerging. You need to rest. I didn't resist. My mission coming to the kitchen was done. Father brought me back to the bedroom and laid me down again against Jason, hoping that the presence of my mate would help me. Little did he know that it only made things worse. You see, I didn't go to the kitchen to make Samuel bleed. I went to the kitchen to get a knife. And right now I'm aiming it towards Jason's chest. I love you. 45 Axel. I've had this unsettling feeling in my chest for the whole day. Something just didn't feel right. I don't know what it is, but it's bothering me to no extent. Samuel wouldn't stop bleeding for some reason. His cut just wouldn't heal. You humans are so fragile. You're real. Castiel's cousin and well-known archangel stated while looking at him. King Lucifer. Should I even address the devil like this? Seemed to get frozen at his words. Something had triggered Satan. The devil said, looking deep in thought. Charmine, we have seen this before. He continued, this time looking at the angel. Nero, she whispered softly. So could you please elaborate? Archangel Michael asked, trying to figure out what was going on. When Nero announced that he would be giving up on his powers, he cut himself in a broken glass and his hand wouldn't heal. So this means... Archangel Raphael asked while messing with his dark hair. Nero passed his share of the Vertity and Ignis to Castiel. However, he's still supposed to have his own powers since he's a supernatural creature. He bled because he was weakened, but he should have regained his total strength back by now. He and Samuel are mates. If one is down, the other will fall too. So if Samuel is fine but bleeding non-stop, if he is falling, as you put it, then Nero is in danger. This is a message. Archangel Gabriel concluded. Never in my life did I think that I would be standing in a room with the devil. A couple of angels, a vampire and a bleeding human. Kinda sounds like a long title for a comedy book. Except that this situation is not a joke. Castiel must be in so much pain right now. Poor thing. Little angel doesn't know how strong she is. Archangel Michael said, expressing how sorry he was about his cousin. I had to put her to sleep when she woke up for the first time. Angel Charmine informed, with a pair of sad eyes. She looked completely out of herself when she came downstairs. Her connection with Nero must be wrecking her mind right now. Archangel Gabriel observed, looking pitiful. Oh yes, I almost forgot about that. Castiel and Nero have a special link since they are twins. She was the only one who could sense him while he was on Earth before this whole mess went down and he turned himself human. Perhaps she managed to get a hold of him. That would explain her maniac reaction. Archangel Uriel said while, once again, trying to stop the hemorrhage on Samuel's hand. That doesn't exactly put my mind at ease. Let's suppose that she and Nero really did contact each other through their connection. If that was her reaction, a destructive angel of death, then whatever Nero told her couldn't be good. Arama's Eid interfered for the first time in this whole conversation. He seemed to be in too much of a shock to process the whole thing at first. I can't really complain because I feel the exact same way. He at least had the balls to finally voice himself. Something inside me snapped at his words. The unsettling feeling hitting me like a wave once again. My wolf was going crazy inside me. The beta side of me screaming to follow my instinct. And I did. I'll go check on Castiel and Jason, I said while excusing myself. Not really waiting for any reply as the sense of danger lit my spine and blew on it with a cold shiver. I rushed upstairs as fast as I could and opened the door to her room. And when I saw the scenario in front of me, I completely froze in my spot. In the middle of the crudely lighted room stood a demon. A girl that I once knew. A fallen angel. Her once brown hair was now pitch black. Dark. Her eyes were no longer green, but red instead. The white part of her eye had turned black as tears of blood covered her face and trailed down to her neck and chest. A crazed look on her eyes. A pair of strong and sharp horns growing on the top of her head, and her nails had sharpened too, looking like flesh-ripping claws. Her clothes were completely ragged and ripped, covered in blood. This was no longer the sweet-looking and bright angel that I knew. This could not be Castiel. A knife seemed to shine in the middle of the darker side of the room, the light from the now open door behind me reflecting on the blade, making it look sharper, colder. My king, my best friend, my alpha was still laying peacefully underneath her. She had settled herself on top of him and looked deep in thought. To strike a deal with the devil you must do. Castiel, a sacrifice. You must do a sacrifice. Castiel put down the KNI, but what happens when the devil won't help you? Castiel, come down. Your father can't do anything. You sacrifice his daughter, of course. I quickly lunged at her, throwing her off of Jason. We were now both struggling against each other, but she was obviously much stronger. Help! I screamed at the top of my lungs, hoping that the powerful people downstairs could come up and help me. A ringing started pounding on my head as I started losing my consciousness due to Castiel blocking my airway. I don't want to hurt you, Axel, she whispered. Her voice, no longer sounding like it, would cut me in little pieces. Castiel. I heard someone yell from outside. She lifted her hand. Her back still turned towards the doors as she had me pinned down on the floor. And the door banged closed, a red light sealing its whole form. I could hear grunts and explosions going on outside. The ground even started to shake in attempts to open the door, but the dark cherry wood didn't even crack. Suddenly I was thrown off towards the nearest wall, and I could feel a couple of bones break as my back hit the hard structure. And before I could even react, I watched as Castiel stabbed the knife in Jason's heart, then stabbed herself on her own chest and dropped her body on top of him, both their chests touching and bleeding. A clink resonated through the room as the knife hit the tiled ground. The door gave in. It was a nice room, full of blood and dirt. There stood the devil on his true terrifying form, a vampire with his fangs out and 5 angels. It was quite a sight. It looked straight out of a movie or a Renaissance painting. However, my attention was solely on the 2 lovers on the bed, covered in blood from head to toe, both their foreheads burning with moon signs once again. But this time it was different. The marks exuded an immense light and a feeling of power. Not a sound could be heard. The bright light seemed to deaf any distraction. Time seemed to stop as we all watched both their wounds heal completely in a blink of an eye. A golden crest unifying both their chests, dried blood connecting them together. Their eyes were wide open, a bright white and golden light shining from their orbs. It looked like their eyes had been ripped out and substituted by flashlights. They looked like ethereal beings, moonlight brightening and illuminating the room alongside with their marks. However, they were both still unresponsive, still dead. 46, Nero. It was a sunny day. The sky was clear and bright. It was a nice time to be alive. I swear I was just going on a stroll, to check the new views and make sure everything was okay. There was an unsettling feeling inside of me. The world was calling me. The birds were chirping quietly, minding their own business, but they sang so softly, so hypnotically. I just knew I had to follow them. And that was the first time I saw him, sitting down on the ground, resting against a tree, a police uniform cladding his fit form as he closed his eyes in exhaustion. He looked so peaceful, completely at home in the middle of the park, blending perfectly with the nature around him. Pure harmony. I just knew. He was my soulmate. But there was a problem. He couldn't see me. How cruel is that? Being blessed with something that will always be one-sided just because your other half couldn't see you, nor know about your existence. I would have to watch him grow old and start a family with someone else. Just the thought made my heart pang. I'm selfish. He's mine. It's only fair. So I sought for help. I got in contact with Allegra. She's the witches' coven leader. Her abilities went beyond this dimension, so she could sense spirits, ghosts. She refused to help me, claiming that it was too dangerous to mess with the laws of the universe. But at the time I didn't listen. I couldn't give a rat's ass about the universe. All I cared about was my mate, the green-eyed Samuel. I should have listened to her. But Clarence got to me first, promising me a bright future where I could walk and roam free in a human form in this world. And I was blind and took in his offer. I owed him, and so the experiences began. Torture after torture. Intermittent periods as a human and back to ghost. I would take advantage of the moments as human to visit my sister, my first true other half, my best friend. It was risky and unstable to do so. I had to lie to her and tell her that this was Allegra's doing. I even lied to her in a note that I left on the mirror of her bathroom, saying that I needed to leave due to other issues. Father's request, when in reality it was the effect of the injections wearing off. She could sense my presence, so I had to leave as soon as possible, otherwise she would know that I was still nearby and would start asking questions. But seeing Castiel wasn't what took most of my time as a human. Progressing my relationship with my mate was. We would go for walks. He would talk about his day at the station and I would listen, mesmerized by the human being beside me. And then came the light touches, the brushing of fingers, then the kisses and holding hands. And then, the doom. Clarence found out about us, kidnapped Samuel and demanded for more. More dosages of potions, more injections, more spells, more torture. I almost died. Too many times. He was after the emergence. I knew that by then, so I tried to fight him and his advanced. But he had Sam in his hands, free to hurt him as much as he wished. He injected me one more time and ordered me to gather a meeting with my parents and sister. One of the worst days of my life. The disappointment in my father's eyes, the concern that painted my mother, and the panic that consumed my sister as I bled non-stop after dropping the deeming information. I announced that I would be giving up my duties regarding the emergence, announcing something that until then no one knew if it was even possible to do what I claimed that intended to do. I was weak. My own powers had been exhausted from the constant healing, the constant protection, but I had to make one final effort. I needed to hold on to the emergence as long as I could after Clarence performed the extraction so that he couldn't have it for himself. And so I did. I walked through the limbo of death as it took everything in me, enthusiasm, in my body, in my soul, to whisper, Allegra, I was dying. I know so. And only she could help me. Only she was trustworthy enough to pass the powers on to Castiel. Her face appeared in mind as I went on a trembling rampage. My nerves were giving and making my body a trembling mess. My lungs had filled with acid a long time ago, burning me from the inside. She was innocent in the middle of all of this. I'm so sorry, Angel. Fuck, I'm so sorry. She had it by now. My half of the emergence was hers. All of it. I was left recovering from my wounds as I slowly regained my strength and natural powers. Sam had been gone a long time ago. I had no clue where he was, whether he was safe or not. But once again, I relied on Castiel to look after him. It was always her. Everything always got thrown at her. She fell down so many times but always managed to get back up on her own 2 feet. Fall after fall. Her strength was unmatchable. She was the strongest out the both of us, even if she didn't know that. It was my time to protect her. My time to make things right. Clarence wasn't exactly happy with my choices, especially now that the emergence was rather far away from him again. So he pulled the one card he had left with me, my debt to him. We shook hands on it. It was a deal. I was bounded to him and I broke our agreement. And in the supernatural world, breaking an oath is a synonym for eternal doom. Who knows what was going to happen to me? He could kill me as many times as he wished and as painful as he wanted. And eternity in pain. Therefore, when I suddenly passed out of pain, to say that I was surprised was to put it lightly. I had a bond with my sister. She too was unconscious. Fate works in a mysterious way. I managed to get my sister to listen to me. I delivered my message as effectively as I could. I needed help. Something bad was going to happen. I just knew. Fate wouldn't let me contact my sister if something worth of ending the world were to happen. She needed to know that I was in danger. The doom that Clarence had spelled upon me stopped me from directly expressing it. How deal? I had to keep quiet. So I thought of the best next thing. My mate bond with Samuel. They have to know through him. Time was running out, but the exchange I had with my sister was enough. We were born for this. Our next moves were natural. Releasing our true selves to save us and hopefully. "I'm glad you finally woke up," the monster said while resting against my dungeon door. "Nero, meet Tiffany. She is our new recruited member. And guess what? She has Aurora's blood running through her veins as we speak." He smirked while motioning towards the tall blonde girl that stood beside him. "She's willing to do whatever that it is needed to get her goddess to come down. How marvelous is that?" The sinister smile never leaving his face as he spoke. "In other words, we will be ditching the full moon night, and instead use her connection to the moon. All we need is a reliable source of magic energy, and that is where you come in handsome," the girl said while cradling my face between her hands, her red nails lightly scratching my cheeks. A crazed look swirled her eyes. "You are going to be our little sacrifice," she said with excitement. Clarence spooned with a laugh and came closer towards me. Bending down to my ear whispered, "She is quite the psychopath, isn't she?" He said it like we were two friends, making fun of the girl in front of us. "You are sick," I whispered back. His amused smile fell for a second. "I wonder how painful the ritual will be for you." He spat sickly before turning around dramatically and pointing towards Tiffany, who stood waiting impatiently by the door. "Come on now, Blondie. Light up the candles." He rotated his neck, taking a peek at me from behind his shoulder. "We have a world to conquer." 47. Jason, I suddenly felt myself being pushed back to reality. My whole body hummed with energy as my heart beat strongly against my chest. I felt different, more aware, stronger, and my soul, it felt fuller, complete almost. I opened my eyes cautiously, guessing the headache that was yet to come, but much to my surprise I felt none. My muscles were stiff, meaning that I had been unconscious for far too long. I tried to sit up in the middle of the reasonably dark room, a broken door on the floor letting the light from the corridor shine through the room, but a weight kept my chest down, not letting myself move much. I cleared my sight, adjusting my eyes to the room and looked down, the tingles suddenly returning. It was Castiel. My angel laid unconscious on top of me rather peacefully. I smiled down at her before frowning at the amount of golden crust that spread through our bodies. But what really caught my attention was the knife that rested on the tiled floor by the bed where we were both staying. Fearing for the worst, I switched positions and laid Castiel down completely on the bed beside me as I analyzed her body for any visible wounds. There were none, only a tear in the middle of her shirt, right over her heart, where the golden substance was more concentrated. My head started playing different scenarios and none of them had a good ending, even if my heart told me that she was okay. I rushed to feel and press her neck to check on her pulse. It was soft and quiet, but it was definitely there. I exhaled loudly in relief. What the fuck happened in here? I asked myself out loud, my voice having a rasp to it, making it sound deeper and heavier, echoing through the silent room. My words, however, didn't went unnoticed. Not even a second later, a tired-looking Axel barged in the doorless room. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." He almost yelled in disbelief while staring at me with his eyes wide open. "Yeah?" I asked, confused. "Fuck man." He then pulled me into a hug. Don't ever scare us like that again," he said, way too restless. He was nervous. There was something wrong. What the hell happened? I asked, looking back at my mate sleeping on the bed. "You passed out. I brought you here and hung. And well, how do I say this?" "Say what?" I pressed him while getting frustrated. "Castiel sacrificed herself. She stabbed both of you in order to save you." It took me a whole minute to process his words, not exactly believing in what he was saying. I looked down at my shirt and it was, indeed, ripped on top of my heart, and more gold and white liquid spread through my body. What the fuck? I yelled, looking around in confusion, shock and anger. I know this sounds crazy, but you need to calm down, he said while making calming hand moves. Castiel was alive. I knew that much. I checked for myself. And the mate bond. It was stronger than ever. I knew she was here. Somewhere. Somehow I could feel her energy. I could feel her. Calm down. Axel, my mate, stabbed me. And then herself. How the fuck are we even alive? I yelled in frustration and confusion. You gotta trust me on this one. Whatever she did it thinking it was the best for both. Right now we have other issues to worry about, he said while getting fidgety all over again. The stress from before returning. I took a deep breath and pinched my nose in frustration. What the fuck? I whispered to myself. I took a quick glance back at the girl laying on the bed. My little angel. We had our ups and downs. Mostly due to this whole secrecy. But I had promised myself that I was willing to trust her completely, even if she stabbed us to save me. This whole situation was wrecking my mind in ways I never knew that were possible. A sacrifice. That's mostly satanic performance. Was she a succubus? A female demon? To my agent extraordinaire, mythical. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I had so many questions and so little time. Right now I need to calm down as much as I could. Fix problems now. Freak out later. What other issues are you talking about? I asked, trying to keep my sanity intact. The ritual has begun. He dropped the bomb while messing anxiously with his hair. What? I asked, shocked, jumping in my place. My wolf finally stirring up inside of me for what felt like forever. Everyone is back at the school waiting. Apparently Tiffany kept true to her word. She did rush the process. Much faster than we all could have predicted it. There are guards circling the whole perimeter as we speak. He paused for a second. Jason, there's a whole mess out there. He finished while shaking his head slightly. My wolf grew restless hearing the news. As an alpha, it was his duty to protect his pack. As an alpha king, it was his obligation to protect a whole nation. A whole species. His feral side was thirsty for blood. For revenge. He wanted Tiffany dead, but more importantly, he wanted Clarence ripped to little pieces. Get everyone out of the school now. Humans. I want them all gone back safely at their houses. We don't want to start any problems for negligence towards other specimens. As for the pack, it's up to each and either one of the members to decide. If they want to go back to safety, then they should all be escorted. Those who choose to stay are to be completely armed, force included. We are going to need all the help that we can get a hold of. Axel nodded and started mind, linking my orders to the rest of the pack. Meanwhile, I sat down next to Castiel on her bed and held her hand before softly kissing it. It's my turn to protect you now, I whispered quietly against her slightly cold skin. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Our army is on the move. Everyone that you listed is being escorted out of the building, Axel communicated back. Good. Get the defense and the attack squad to get inside discreetly. Who else is in the building? I asked her. I looked at him seriously while furrowing my eyebrows in apprehension. What wasn't he telling me? He quickly got the memo and sighed in defeat. William. Isabella. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Aromas ed and. His voice got progressively quieter as he spoke. And I pressed. He suddenly got a rush of confidence and spitted all at once, surprising me in ways I couldn't possibly describe. Castiel's parents and a few of her cousins. That was unexpected as hell. But after everything that I've seen lately, this was just another day on Earth. However, that didn't mean that I could process and react positively at the news though. To our agent extraordinaire, mythical. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Was all he could answer. Well, get them out of there, are you crazy? They might have connections and be involved on some dark shit, but we are going against a goddess for fuck's sake. I expressed raged. You see, they are actually our best front line. Without them we are completely fucked. Axel replied cautiously, waiting for my reaction. What the hell do you mean? Hell indeed, he said quietly, almost to himself, before continuing. You will understand once we get there, he replied while motioning himself out of the room. I followed him and passed by a bathroom where I splashed cold water against my face, as if trying to wake up. All of this felt like an actual nightmare. Never in my life did I imagine that I would be in this position right now. And I hate it. Wait, we can't leave Castiel here all by herself. Get Isabella to come over as soon as possible. I'm sure she will appreciate some female company when she wakes up. If he said in a dark, sober tone. If she wakes up, he said with his head hanging a little lower than before. He hurried towards the car as I adjusted my eyes to the brightness outside. My eyesight was strangely much clearer and sharper than before. I put my thoughts aside and entered the fast sports car. Speeding down the road, we arrived to school in record time. The building was just about to finish all the constructions and to wrap up the rebuild. It was a shame to think that if things didn't go our way, the whole building could burn down to ashes or worse. We exited the car and ran to meet up with the outside team. Guards. Hold position. How many do we have? I asked Lieutenant Jarbias, who was the responsible for the outside team of the entrance wing. Your Majesty. He bowed down and waited for my nod of approval to keep on going. Royal Army has a round for guards. Other alphas and nearby packs have been notified as well. It might take them a few hours to arrive. Adding to more for now. Students that decided to stay round, the 90th in number, sir. 90 more people. I had expected much fewer to stay, so those news brought some hope to my heart. I nodded at him. Good. We don't need to notify more packs for now. We need a more detailed assessment of what's going on inside the building. We don't know how fast or how grave things can escalate. If it comes to that point, we will try to hold the enemy down as long as we can until the alphas and packs from other continents notify and confirm back to us. Russia on top list. Germany too. And China. I want all of them on speed dial. Yes, sir. I'm going in. I grabbed a handgun. A Glock 9 and tucked it on the right side of my waist just in case. We had a special bullets designed to explode with the target. No matter which species. And I wouldn't hesitate to use them. I entered quietly and looked around. I was quickly pulled aside by a dark figure who dragged me towards a classroom. William, let go of me. I ordered in a whisper. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What's going on in here? I was suddenly interrupted by a loud bang and a few grunts. Everyone around me mentioned me to keep quiet with their fingers. I listened to them and tried to understand what was happening outside our door. A few crashing and breaking of various materials could be heard, just like grunts of pain. Lucifer, we can't kill them, a soft angelic voice said. I know. A grunt of pain and a final crash followed the familiar dark, cold and chilling voice. Castiel's parents. I didn't have time to fully process what I had just heard because of a sudden immense sense of orange and red lights that reflected through the door. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I looked back alarmed at William. Elijah and Aroma's ED. There's a fire outside. We need to get them. I linked them in urgency. They simply shook their heads side to side. Except for Aroma's who was reading something on an old notebook with a familiar golden stamp on it. It bothered me a lot how unfazed all of them were acting. There was a fire outside, for fuck's sake. I grew frustrated at this. Everyone was acting like they knew something that I didn't. But I'm the alpha. I'm the one who rules things. I'm in control of every situation. My wolf was terribly conflicted. He wanted action, to do something. And then someone opened the door from the outside. All the males inside this classroom stood up and straightened themselves up and proceeded to bow down and kneel. My eyes almost popped out of their socks as I took the sight in front of me. Flashes of Castiel's suspicious behaviors crossing through my mind in a matter of seconds. Your parents, Ethan said, looking confused as well. She frowned. What about them? You said, it's not like they can come back from the land of the dead. She paled. I said that. Oh ha ha ha, the land of the dead is what we call our hometown. It's a family joke, she said, fiddling with her blouse. Where's your hometown? Far away. Far away where? Axel pushed. It's complicated, she said, looking panicked. What are your parents' names? Her eyes widened. Why, just curious. My mom's name is Charmine. Oh, like the angel? Eli asked, interested. Yes, we are a religious family. That's cool. How about your dad? Axel asked. She froze again. My dad's name is Lucy. He's not from here, so he has a weird name. Aha. Suddenly everything started to make sense. A grip of pure fear surrounded my heart, making my chest ache a little as I stared in shock at the two heavenly creatures in front of me. And Angel, absolutely beautiful, shining brightly with her pure white light. And beside her a tall, dark, monstrous beast with two horns sticking out of the top of his head. Features so sharp that could cut me with just a glance. His eyes so red that could reach inside my soul, making my blood run cold. Bright, burning flames cocooned his figure like a cult would. Their stance was incredibly powerful. No living being on this world would ever dare to cross them. Not in a right state of mind. The power this couple exuded, it was something like I'd never felt before. They looked like they could end the world by simply clicking their fingers. I fell onto my knees in disbelief, surrendering myself completely. My ego as an alpha, as a king, completely forgotten as my body consumed greedily the energy they exuded. The mother angel. And the devil. 48, Jason. My mind couldn't process what was happening in that moment. Everything went blank. My shock taking over me as I still kneeled on the floor. But as something had suddenly clicked inside of me, I stood up once again to my confident stance. My alpha genes burning and brewing stronger, making my muscles hum with effronation. These were Castiel's parents, eye contact weak in front of them. I need them to know that I'm able to take whatever it takes to protect their daughter. Well, even if she is the daughter of the two most infamous creatures in the Catholic human religion, creatures that I never thought that would actually be real. You must be Jason. Enthusiasm, Angel Charmine said while smiling softly at me with her pearly whites. Her eyes shining with kindness and care. Everything about her reflected what I imagined heaven to feel like. Her aura was relaxing and just pure harmony. It was the perfect contrast with the evil creature standing next to her, that was currently glaring at me with a pair of red, hateful eyes. Yes, Your Majesty, I said, bowing down, showing my respect towards them. No need for that, Jason. We are family after all, she said, with a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Before I could reply, Satan himself intruded our dialogue. Not yet, no, he said while glaring at me a little more before extending his hand towards me, so that he could shake mine. We finally meet, he said while gripping my hand tightly, cocking his head slightly to his left side. A dangerous smirk painted on his lips as examined my expression as the hold on my hand got tighter and tighter. You see, the playful devil is 100 times more dangerous than the devil on his ruffle, horns and everything. When blinded by rage, his actions can be predicted. It's universal to every creature. It's survival. Now playing games. That is where he gets you when you are least expecting. Lucifer, that's enough. Hearing his wife's command, he retreated reluctantly, but not before glancing at me in the eyes, sending a message. Our encounter has yet to begin. Situation status, ma'am or sir? Someone behind me asked. Everyone gathered around to listen to what was happening beyond those grey doors. Clarence has an army. A more possessed creatures, ranging from humans to vampires. You name it. They are rummaging all over the place looking for praise. They need to feed, that's why Clarence wanted the whole school here. Angel Charmine started. That's great. The royal army has far more elements than that. Ethan interrupted. Kiwe Aiken Kixcoordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. However, we have a problem. Vladimir Prostov, a vampire emperor, is one of the possessed victims, which means that he can still command a whole nation of vampires against us, including Arama's E's family. The devil explained while staring from the corner of his eye to the vampire inside with us. We can't kill them. They are victims after all. You must immobilize them, one by one, and move on to the next one. Lucifer and I can purify their souls again. I would say at least 10 people at once. It will take a lot of time and energy. We can either fight or purify souls. Out of our realm there are different rules that we must obey in order to keep peace in both heaven and hell. Our earth has different vibrations and deregulate our might power, so it's better if we use our energy to get more people on our side rather than fighting and accidentally kill someone. Angel Charmine explained. They are possessed creatures. Their fighting abilities have been severely enhanced. A height of them equals thousands and regular trained soldiers. I may have learnt some spells from that book that Castiel gave me, but that's it on magic for us. We will have no chance without someone. You know. Powerful, Axel said, motioning towards the couple in front of us as he finished speaking. You seem to forget that we still have Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel and Michael inside the building with us. They are angels. They will for sure help you out. Don't fret. I still feel like we are in disadvantage here. We can't kill them, but they can kill us. If Vladimir gathers his own army, there will be at least 7 vampires to take down. William intervened for the first time in the conversation. Is there any chance of you both using your full capacities without endangering everyone? Arama's Eid asked questioningly, looking up from his notebook towards the mystical creatures. You know the answer to that already, Arama's E. It's already dangerous enough for us to be interacting with creatures that are alive, especially non-humans. We are responsible for humans. Interfering with others can cause a tremendous amount of harm, and fate is unpredictable when it comes to war. You better than anyone else know that, the devil said, looking almost human with the pity and grief reflecting through his eyes as he looked at the vampire. Arama's Ed, we understand if you don't want to get into battle. If Vladimir gets indeed his army, you won't need to choose between us and your family. You can walk out freely and safely, you know that, right? Angel Charmine said while grasping the vampire's face gently with her hand as he nodded back at her. The 3 of them have obviously been to hell and back together. No pun intended. Their affection towards the vampire, even if not as noticeable to others, was clear to me. Just like the bond that Castiel has with him, so do her parents. Something has happened in the past to make them this close. That much was obvious. Now knowing those details was the hardest part. What happens if we can't defeat them in time? Elijah asked. In that case, pray that Castiel wakes up from her coma on time. Arama's Ed replied with a sober and serious tone. Castiel, isn't that dangerous since the moon goddess is coming after her? I asked, concerned. Even if she is the daughter of the devil and the mother angel, no one could stop the rage of a god. As soon as her aura realizes what's happening, she will cease the ritual, leaving an open battlefield. Just like we can't intervene with other creatures other than humans. She can only manage werewolves and, well, vampires to now, I guess. Lucifer replied while grasping his chin deep in thought. Clarence has other plans for Aurora. Punishing Castiel was just some poor excuse to evoke her without raising suspicions. He's after the vertitem ignis. And since Nero can't give it to him, he'll try to get it from Castiel through her mate bond with you, thinking that Aurora is the one behind the pairing. Angel Charmine explained briefly. Vertitem ignis. What the hell is that? I looked around, but everyone else seemed to either overlook the Latin words or know what they meant. I just ignored it for now and kept on listening. In that case, can't she help us by controlling the vampire army? Axel asked. I'm not sure. There's a high probability of the majority of the vampires to still be out of her control, since most of them still aren't aware that Roderick has died and that Aurora is responsible for them now. The lack of belief or false connection to a god that has ceased to exist may affect her power over them. And just like us, she wouldn't dare to cross fate and its rules. Angel Charmine explained again. What about more angels? That would actually be a good idea. Except that all angels, when hit their maturity and receive their wings, are attributed to a selected group of humans to take care of. All angels of heaven are guardian angels, except for a very restricted group of angels, and pretty much all of them are here already except for Metatone, who's busy controlling everything up there because Raphael, Gabriel, Michael and Uriel left their duties to come and help us. Removing guardian angels from their job can put millions of human lives in danger, and that simply cannot happen due to the universal balance. Lucifer explained, as if reviving memories. And demons? Ethan asked. Lucifer let out a roar of laughter. You really want to leave a bunch of demons walk free here? They are not trustworthy enough to be left alone in hell, where I have full control of them, much less here on earth. They would flee the second they got their viscous and menacing paws in here. They would create havoc everywhere. No way. The devil kept on laughing with his booming vocals and if imagining the scene in his head. What about Nero? I asked, still thinking of possibilities. Everyone went completely silent after my question. Status unknown. I nodded back at Aramazid, who was the only one who had the guts to answer. I kept thinking of possibilities and repeating the new information that I had just received in mind over and over again until a certain sentence got stuck in my head, making me question, thinking that Aurora is the one behind the pain. If the moon goddess wasn't the one responsible for my bond with Castiel, then who was? My heartbeat suddenly sped up as a cold shiver licked up my spine. I clenched my fists together as my muscles suddenly started humming all over again. 49. Nero pain. Incessant crippling and stinging waves of pain consumed my body as the rusty silver chains held me down. Runes and symbols carved around the shining hard material that restrained my wrist and consequently my hands and arms. My feet were also hurt. Dried blood caked them as the cutting metal scraped against the already tender skin of my ankles. The flesh being shown, raw and red, it stung like a bitch. However, it was the pain in my chest, enclosing my heart, that made me fret the most. It was torture. They were ripping my soul and shredding it to pieces. Energy to fuel their nonsense. I could barely breathe. My ribs seemed to want to puncture my lungs as this outside for supplied pressure to my chest cavity, reaching deeper and deeper with sharp nails to scrap my insides, lurking and consuming whatever life I had left. The chanting around me grew louder and higher by each passing moment. Elders covered by giant bird-shaped masks and big dark and hard-looking cloaks. Their hands were up in the air, aspiring for the higher spirits, to give them strength as they called upon their goddess to come. I knew that it was only a matter of time until Aura made an appearance. Another wave of pain crashed onto me, making me curl up in pain. I clutched my head as much as I could, as if would relieve some of the pressure that felt on my body. Same mind, same body. The flames inside just grew bigger and bigger, destroying me in ways that one could never imagine. I closed my eyes as tears fell freely from them, rolling down my cheeks and chin. I watched as the little drop of salty water fell down from my face and made its route towards the dirty gym's ground. It was millimeters away from crashing when suddenly the whole world froze. A bright light reviving the poorly lightened gym, just like a shooting star. And as every other shooting star, as soon as appeared it dissipated in the very next second. But that was just the beginning. The ground started to shake violently as the chanting hit its climax, a high-pitched noise filling the room. See that, Nero? Clarence said, suddenly appearing next to me, crouched down onto the floor as if mocking my state. I curled up again and let out a scream of agony, the sound already sounding deaf to my own ears, now accustomed to hear them. He grabbed my chin roughly and smirked before almost breaking my neck while turning my head towards my right side, where a huge hurricane of energy swirled violently and powerfully. Its bright color almost blinded me as it kept growing bigger, a silhouette of a creature unraveling inside the power womb. That is the beginning of the end. He dropped my heavy head and I let gravity decide my movement, allowing my skull to hit the ground with a cracking noise that resonated through the room. And then another wave of pain came. I felt hopeless, weak, a feeling that I'd had never expected to experience. But as of lately, it's the only feeling that I know. And just like that, I allowed that weakness to rot me. I closed my eyes and gave up on resisting the energy that tried to drain me. I surrendered. It could enter me, scrape me, eat me, kill me, to seize my time of existence in seconds. Aurora, the moon goddess, was finally here. I'm not sure for how long I've been unconscious for. All I could hear around me were voices and loud noises. Crashing, yelling, as well as a constant buzzing sound that almost made itself pass by a background noise. Slowly opening my eyes. My vision was hazy and blurry. My head was throbbing in pain as my body felt numb. Drained. Everything around me seemed to move in slow motion as the silence in my mind deafened me. My chest felt hollow and empty. I was fragile. I decided to focus my conscience in the scene unraveling in front of me. Mom and Dad. Their backs were resting against each other as they fought against a group of 10 or more people, being careful to not kill them, but instead tried to purify their souls again. The balls of light shining bright from my mother's hands contrasting against the dark energy that radiated off my father's. They were quite the team, their movements calculated and graceful, and getting each other's backs. They were invincible. I watched mesmerized as my parents moved so coordinated, tears stinging my eyes as the guilt started to eat me up. This is all my fault. I swallowed a mouthful dryness, the feeling scraping my throat giving me a funny feeling as my heart slowly pulsated faster. More alive. Little by little I started to look around, only being able to slightly turn my head and clenching and unclenching my fingers. My hands. My left leg was also twitching unnoticeably slow. My cousins were also here. Even though I couldn't exactly see them, I could definitely feel their energy. It was pacifying me, regenerating the broken connections of my nerves, my muscles and my bones. I could only imagine their powerful stance as they fought and purified as many souls as they could, their angelic and powerful wings creating a powerful breeze that could dethrone many humans. And then I saw a body being projected against me. I couldn't react. I just prepared myself for the pain, clenching my eyes tightly and waited for the impact. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That impact never came. A giant and majestic black wolf stood in front of my corpse and took the force for me. The wolf didn't waver from that imponent stance. The body that was bound to hit me bounced back after crashing against the wolf. A wolf as strong as this one could only belong to the royal family. To my agent extraordinaire, mythical, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My sister's mate. And he wasn't alone. He had a whole pack fighting with him, some still in their human forms, firing guns with magical bullets that perpetrated through the air like little assassins, silent yet deadly. I could see Clarence and the blonde girl still surrounding the hurricane of energy that was bursting through the ceiling line. Aurora was here. She hasn't unraveled her carnal form yet, but I knew that it was only a matter of minutes until she did so. By looking around I could see that the outcome was going to be positive. Most of Clarence's minions had been put down or purified and put back to sleep, and the army of wolves was still going strong. But I spoke too soon. This was Clarence after all. If he wanted something he wouldn't stop until he got it. Start phase 2. He yelled as if reading my mind. I knew that he came prepared. Suddenly there was a shift of energy in the room. Hundreds and hundreds of vampires jumped out of the nowhere, mostly coming from the ceiling and the darkest shadows. Their skin was a sickly tone of ash grey, and their eyes glowed red as blood, their fangs shining against their dark complex. As if it wasn't enough, Clarence decided to step away from the circle and grabbed people that had been induced to sleep and started to revive them, repossess them. As my parents purified 10 souls at once, Clarence could only do 1 or 2. But that didn't seem like a problem for him as he strode confidently through the havoc of blood and brutality. The wreckage in this facility was supernatural. There wasn't a single thing that wasn't broken. The ceiling was long gone, as so were the school's walls. Everything had been reduced to dust, leaving a ground full of obstacles made out of debris and bodies. This was no longer a learning facility but a battlefield instead. And then a loud and perturbing horn pierced the air with its powerful noise. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Clarence yelled like a maniac standing on top of a broken bookshelf. His possessed being stopped altogether, and consequently everyone else stopped too. Their intentions weren't to kill Clarence's army. They were. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Victims. That didn't mean that they stopped their battle strategy. My cousins kept purifying souls just like my parents. In fact, father was about to grab Vladimir, the vampire emperor, when Clarence started laughing loudly while tears king. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Lucifer. A voice said out of the nowhere. It was definitely a woman, around Clarence's age. Father turned around to face the woman, and as soon as he did, his already furious eyes grew 1 shade darker, his body shaking in anger. Raw and powerful, his deadly mode had been activated. From then on he wouldn't care if anyone else died. He was thirsty for blood, for revenge. The woman wasn't exactly young. Her dark hair was pushed back and kept by a handful of bright red hairpins. A mushy green dress covered half of her body as the other half was covered in blood. Her hands resting against the shoulders of 2 children, a boy and a girl. I immediately recognized the little girl. It was the little girl that Cowstead L had cured and put to sleep in our first horizon call. And apparently I wasn't the only one. A thunderous and lethal growl emanated from the right side of the destroyed building. The black wolf coming closer and closer. A deadly pair of glowing eyes set on the woman and the girl she had in her possession. A grey wold trailed behind him, equally furious except that his eyes were set on the little boy who, just like the girl, had tears falling from his eyes as his nose grew redder and his little fragile body shook in fear. It all goes down to a girl and a boy isn't funny, just like Carstate Hell and Nero. How interesting, Clarence said while resting his head against his left hand in mocking wonder. He was definitely psychotic and sick in the head. Then the black wolf shifted back to its human form, just as I had suspected. It was indeed Jason. Marthy, I order you to let them go, he yelled, a strong sense of power booming from his voice. This was definitely an alpha command. His energy grew bigger as he directed it towards the woman, who I'm assuming that is Martha. Her previous confidence dance faltered, a strong need to submit to her king conflicting against her own will and body. She had to submit. I'm afraid I can't do that, my king, she said while bowing her head towards the ground. She's bounded to me. She won't obey you, Alpha, Clarence replied while accentuating the word Alpha in a mocking manner. Let's get things straight, you little king. I'm the one who sets the rules. He continued while dramatically descending from the broken bookshelf that he was previously standing on top of and taking a concerning step closer towards Jason. Retreat your army or else the children in your pack will die, starting from your little sister to your beta's little brother. He finished while pointing towards the kids that had went holding them back. I felt useless. I'm certain that by now I'd be able to stand up, but I was still too weak to fight and use whatever powers I had left. The instant feeling of guilt came back stronger than ever. I had to do something. But what? My thoughts had consumed my attention for a few seconds. The sudden movement of troops retreating awakening me back to reality. It was now 13 against thousands. Clarence was a sick motherfucker. Why are you doing this, Martha? Is this your revenge after Jason fired you? Are you that petty? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. If I remembered correctly, fired angrily towards the woman. She shook her head from side to side. I'm just doing what a good wife does. Supporting my mate, she replied while looking lovingly towards Clarence, who had a disgusting smirk painted on his face, the triumph radiating from his eyes. I suddenly felt an uncontrollable urge to puke,